So my name is Helen Turner, and I work for Worcestershire County Council. And just bear with me while I get my slides up. Uh, there we go. We just changed that display setting so you can see that better. That look okay? Give me a thumbs up, somebody. Thank you. So, morning, everybody. So, I'm here to talk to you today about some of the support on offer available through Worcestershire County Council. The first programme that I'm going to talk about is the Business Energy Advice Service. So this is a service that we're running in partnership with a lot of other organisations across the West Midlands. So this is designed to help businesses save money by looking at energy assessments and grant funding for energy efficiency projects. There is up to £100,000 in grants available for energy efficiency projects, or £50,000 if you're looking at renewable projects like solar. So the Business Energy Advice Service, or BEAS, as it's usually known, is part of a broader government initiative to reduce carbon across the West Midlands. The main delivery partner for this is the West Midlands Combined Authority, and we're one of the local delivery partners. So we're operating the programme on behalf of Worcestershire and the Marches, so that's Herefordshire, Shropshire and Telford and Wrekin. So kind of beyond those areas, it's also in Coventry, Warwickshire, Staffordshire, and Birmingham, Solihull, Black Country. So there's a lot of areas that can benefit from this service. So if you do know anybody that's kind of outside Worcestershire in the Marches, they could also benefit from this as well. So the criteria to be eligible for the business advice service is that you do need to be an SME with an annual energy consumption of 25,000 kilowatt hours. If you're not sure what that is, it's always useful to look at your bills. It's usually in the region of £6,000 to £10,000 per annum, depending on kind of what your prices are with your energy provider. It is aimed at commercial entities and profit-seeking enterprises, and you do need to be registered with Companies House to benefit from this programme. And you do need to operate from a commercial address and been operating for at least 12 months and responsible for paying the energy bills. And there's some areas that they can't support, such as agriculture, forestry, fisheries. So those are the kind of main criteria to benefit from the service. And what it can do is offer that free energy advice. So independent energy advisor can come into your business. They'll look at kind of what you're doing, your processes, your machinery, and they'll produce a report for you. And off the back of that report, you can access up to £100,000 in grant funding. And that can be for a range of different measures. So that's improved refrigeration, for example, water management, ventilation, heating like boilers and heat pumps, things like energy efficient lighting, and also your kind of solar panels and things like that as well. So there's lots of different things that the grant can help you with. It's a really simple process. So there is an online registration form that is on the Business Growth West Midlands website. Just to kind of save any confusion, it is obviously the West Midlands site, but it is, as I said before, accessible for a range of different regions within the West Mids. So you just complete a simple online registration form. We'll review your form, check you're eligible, and then refer you to the energy advisor. Then you'll get that report with the recommendations of your energy measures in. And then off the back of that, you can apply for that nice, juicy £100,000 grant. So it's a nice, simple process. The intervention rate for the grant is up to 50%. So that does mean you'll need to fund the other 50%. And it's same as most other grant funding, you will need to pay for the cost up front and then claim that 50% back at the end of the project. The focus is on existing processes and buildings. So if you're moving into a new building, you wouldn't be eligible. It's for what you've already got in situ. If you have had an energy assessment within the last 2 years, you don't need to have another one. It doesn't need to have been a BEAS review that you've had. There is a possibility that you could go straight for that grant funding. So if that's the case, the best thing to do is to email our grants team directly with a copy of the report that you've got. Just drop them an email on that grants@worcestershire.gov.uk, and what they'll do is look at the process with you. If you let them know kind of what's in the report that you'd like to go for a grant for, they can talk that through with you and get that process going. So there's a bit of a QR code there. So for anybody that is interested in registering, you can snap that QR code. I don't know if it'll let you click the link on that. Uh, Probably not, no. But I think Olivia's going to send it round after. So you'll have all these details if you want to. Similarly, you can drop us an email on netzero@worcestershire.gov.uk. Any questions, yeah, just drop us a line and we'll see what we can do to help. So that's kind of the Business Energy Advice Service wrapped up. The other thing that we've got on offer for so perhaps if the business energy advice service isn't right for you or you don't quite fit the criteria, is the Professional Business Advisors Programme. So this is a Worcestershire Growth Hub programme. It's one of their flagship advice programmes, and there are a range of different expert one-to-one advice services you can access through professional business advisors. There's general business advice, strategic marketing, digital technology adoption in AI, and energy and sustainability. So the Professional Business Advisors does have a range of providers that offers the support. So I've just got a slide there to show you the different organisations we're working with, the different consultants who are all kind of experts in their areas. And for the energy and sustainability element, we've got the Clean Tech Business Group. So what can be offered through this programme is up to 5 hours of support and guidance to help you manage your energy costs, reduce your emissions, and improve your sustainability. It can look at creating and implementing a net zero or decarbonisation plan. If you need to develop a green strategy, things like the ISO implementation and coaching, and maybe if you just need a small energy assessment that's desk-based just to help you look at something simple, we can do that as well. So that's usually up to 5 hours of support. And this one is open to businesses across Worcestershire, any size, any sector. So it's a lot less criteria for this one. And to find out a bit more about that, you can contact the Growth Hub on those details. Again, these slides will be coming around, so you'll have those to hand. And I think that's it from me. So really quick overview. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. I don't know if you want to do them now, Olivia, or wait till the end.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Helen. That's great. There are a couple of questions in the chat. One is just about sharing the slides, which, to confirm, I'm going to share all of the slides from all three speakers once we finish this webinar. So yeah, absolutely, you'll receive a copy of all of the slides. There is another question for you, Helen. Can you see the chat, or do you want me to read it out?
Is that yeah, in terms of buildings, is there a
Yes.
time limit on how long you need to be in that location?
Mm-hmm.
So you do need to have a reasonable amount of energy bills. So we do usually ask for 12 months in the location. However, if you've been there for a couple of months and you've got energy bills from previous location, it might be possible to do some benchmarking. Or to kind of look at what you've used before if it's going to be similar. So if there are kind of queries like that, best thing to do would be to drop us an email or give us a ring, and we can chat that through with you and just kind of look at whether that's feasible and how we can take that forward. If it is a brand new premises, unlikely to be able to help because we would expect brand new builds to be reasonably energy efficient anyway. But if it's just moving into a different building, we can look to see if we can help. So yeah, definitely one to get in touch with us and kind of ask the question directly, and we can figure out how we can take that forward.
Amazing. Thanks, Helen. Adam's that? Yeah, you've put your thumbs up. That's okay.
Fab.
Awesome. Fantastic. Helen, if you just want to
Thank you.
share in
I'll
your
stop
screen, and
sharing.
thank you very much for that information. I'm going to move swiftly on to introduce Andy Johnson from Wyvale Nurseries. Wyvale Nurseries won the Excellence in Sustainability Award a couple of months ago for 2025. So congratulations to you and the team again. And Andy's just going to talk us a little bit through that. So Andy, if you want to start sharing your screen.
Can you see that?
No.
Okay. Apologies to everyone. I don't use Zoom. I've got the same problem again.
Just along the bottom, so making sure you're in the Zoom meeting, and then there should be a button across the bottom that says share.
No, it's because I'm in the browser. Is that?
No, you should still be able to do it. So if you kind of hover over the main screen where we all are, you
Yeah.
should have like a ribbon of different options across the bottom that have got like chat, your audio, your video.
It was there when I was observing, but it's
not there now.
Yeah, it's there now. Share.
Okay, here we go.
It's grayed out again.
Strange. Let me just check you are listed as a co-host.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Fantastic. There we go. Yeah, so just take that back to the beginning. So we're just on your end slide.
Yeah.
There we go. Fantastic. Okay, hand over to you. Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Apologies for that, everyone. So I just thought I'd take you through our sustainability story. I should have put so far because it never stops. But a little bit about Wyvale. We're a wholesale plant production nursery and 95 years of history growing trees, shrubs and other plants. And it would be fairly easy to be complacent, thinking, we put 5 million young trees and plants into the British landscape every year. We must be doing our bit. But when we look at the balance of what we're doing, of course, in the production process, we naturally have negative impacts, same as everyone else. So what we're seeking to do is make sure that we're adding as much value to the environment in terms of sustainability in what we do, whilst decreasing any negative impacts and working those through the business. Just a little bit about us. So we're based in Hereford, and we have 3 main production divisions. The first one, starting with the biggest in terms of acreage, is our tree production. So we produce standard trees, as you see there, and we have about 300 to 400 acres of these trees at any one time. It's a 5-year production cycle from planting through to harvest. So a lot of land under that management, and the output is about 70,000 of these large trees every year going into the market. And our major inputs and therefore impacts are associated with the land use, materials like canes and fuels, agrochemicals, and on this particular operation, we use a minimal amount of irrigation. We rely on natural cycles, which is a bit of a challenge this year, and we will only really intervene during the initial establishment after planting. The next largest in terms of acreage, but massively bigger in terms of individual plants output, is what we call our transplant division, which is based over on the Gloucestershire border. That's about 200 acres. And we output about 4 million young trees and hedging plants each year on a 2-year production cycle. And our major impacts there are on land use, water. We use a lot of in this operation because we've got tiny seedlings in a very sandy soil, fuel and agrochemicals. And then in terms of intensity, containers is our smallest at 80 acres, but much more intensive in terms of resource usage. Typically, our crops in this unit are on a 3-year production cycle, but it can be anything from 18 months for the fastest to 4 or 5 years. We output about 1.4 million containers a year, and similar set of inputs: water, fuel, agrochemicals, but particularly potting substrates, which formerly I would have said peat, and the plastics, the pots and trays. So quite a lot to think about in terms of those things. As a green-based business growing plants, it's good that we have a lot of staff that are very engaged with the environment, the ecosystems and wildlife, and the benefits of a planted environment can bring. So we're starting from a position of high engagement anyway. And we felt that to move things forward, we needed to have some structure around our operations. Oh, sorry, I missed the transport operation. Just very briefly, we operate 4 HGVs ourselves, delivering 7,000 deliveries all over the country. And of course, the major input there is fuel.
Andy, can I just interrupt you really quickly? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Your slides. Can you just you're still on the main first slide, the introduction slide. As you're talking through, just click the down arrow so that we can follow your slides, because I know you've got some lovely pictures.
Oh, sorry,
that's okay.
It was changing on mine. Is that?
If you click down on your keypad, you know, you've got like the 4 on left, right. If you go, can you click down a couple of times?
Yeah, has that not changed? It should be on trees now.
It's not changing on any of ours, and a few people have just said the same in the chat. Can you see in the bottom right hand corner of your screen on the PowerPoint slide, there's like, you see the little zoom dial. There's a tiny icon next to that looks like a little screen and projector sort of icon. It's very tiny.
In the bottom right?
Bottom right.
I haven't got that.
That's okay. Can you click on one of your other slides as you go through them? So can you click on number 3?
Has that changed it?
Click on number 3.
Yeah, clicked on it.
No, that hasn't changed it either. Okay. Did you send me a copy of your slides, Andy?
I didn't, but I can do.
I was going to say, because it might just be beneficial for me to share them. Going through, just so everybody. I know you've got some great pictures. Oh, there you go. That's it. Okay. So if you now press the down arrow, does that go to number 4? So press down. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So do you want to get to the slide that you're on? So.
Okay, yeah, apologies to everyone. So just running through, get you the images of the trees there. Now makes sense. The forestry transplant operation and the container operation.
Fab.
And everyone knows what a lorry looks like. So that's our fleet and our livery. So I started to talk about the structure and putting some measures in place. Having sort of talked about the level of engagement with the staff, how we brought structure to it. So back in 2010, we went for ISO 14001, which we found a really useful tool to help us triage what our impacts were. We looked at that by each site, each operation, and identified really those main inputs of peat, water, energy, agrochemicals, and our waste streams, including plastics. And we also sort of found that to get everyone's involvement and ownership, it was important to find a way to support and engage in every area. So we've aligned with as many support organisations as we can. Our own trade organisation, the Horticultural Trades Association, was looking at the issues, and the garden centre trade in particular was getting bad press on things like peat use, water and plastics. And they developed their own sustainability pledge, which we've aligned with and added our support to that pledge, which covers a lot of our core impacts. We've also signed up with Planet Mark to look at our carbon reduction. So for a long time we were thinking, well, we're carbon positive, we're producing all these trees that will be sequestering carbon, we've got to be doing the right thing. But taking that aside, we do want to quantify that. We also need to look at all the carbon consumption and set annual targets for reducing that. And then perhaps most importantly, with our industry specifics, we got very involved very early on with an organisation called Plant Healthy, which is looking at biosecurity. There's been lots of stories in the press about importing plants, introducing pests and diseases, sometimes with quite disastrous consequences. I'm sure many of you are aware of the ash dieback problem and other issues we've had over the years. So that is actually a really important one for us, and each operation, each nursery area has its own policies to look at the issues associated with the plants. But as much as we possibly can, we try to be self-sufficient. So we're trying to go from seed through all the production stages to the final plant and make sure that we are clean and supplying healthy plants into the marketplace. I thought then, because we've got so many areas and so many topics, I'd just do a quick dive into some of the issues. Has that changed to peat-free?
Yeah, that's changed.
We're on peat-free.
Yeah.
So this was one that has received a lot of press from organisations like National Trust and the RHS. And it's been actually quite a challenge for the nursery industry. For better or worse, our whole container industry, which uses the substrates, developed in the 70s and 80s, using peat as a substrate because of its incredible properties of inertness, buffering water and nutrient availability. And all the infrastructure of nurseries was built up around those forgiving natures and the uniformity of the substrates we have there. So it's been a real challenge to find materials that act in a predictable way and work within the nursery infrastructure that the industry has, not just us. So over a number of years, we've been involved with a lot of R&D and trials, introducing first peat dilution, introducing wood materials, barks, shredded wood, and other materials to bring that peat percentage down. We're now at a level where we offer quite a range peat-free, and the total peat dilution, we're only now using about 20% peat in all our production, and feeling we're only now a step away to making that whole transition. But as with everything we find there are gains and balances on the negative spectrum, and the offset here with the peat reduction is it is more variable. We can get wastage and waste streams from lack of uniformity. The water management is different, so we can use more energy pumping water around. So there's lots of things to balance, but it's been a period of progressive trials and replacement there. On the water management side is probably the most topical at the moment. We use a lot of water on the container production operations, and I said on our forestry operation, our forestry seedling operation. These are our two big reservoirs. The one on the right is at our transplant nursery. We acquired that with the farm about 30 years ago. And is an incredibly valuable resource. On our site in Hereford, we have 4 different boreholes with different limitations on abstraction, season we can take, and where we're able to use them. So one of our big projects a few years ago was to form the equivalent of a national grid. We connected up all our sources of water so that we can get all the sources to any of the areas of the production nursery, which gave us flexibility. But we were still struggling with the dual challenges of not having enough water in the summer and being in a low spot in Hereford. We can be subject to flooding in the winter. So our big project, as you see on the left, was to install a massive reservoir on our Hereford site, which now acts as a buffer to balance all the water sources and to give us capacity to take floodwater in the winter and alleviate that situation. Then just looking at application systems, this is our transplant nursery, and you can see on the image in the left, on the field there are little circles that show a difference, and that was using a point source irrigation system on our seed beds, which was contributing to lack of uniformity and also giving us runoff and soil erosion. And we've moved over to highly precise booms that can put on a much finer drop and give us much more control and make the water more uniform and more efficiently used. So across all our operations, we're looking to sort of improve the uniformity of application, recycle, reuse, and move that forward. I've mentioned on the big trees that we were growing them in the open ground without much irrigation at all. But one of the things that we're seeing with the changes in climate is that the season for bare root trees, where we lift and supply them either with bare roots or a soil root ball, is getting shorter and shorter because dormancy is coming later in the autumn. Very often the ground can, well, the last 3 years, it's either been too dry to lift or too wet to lift. So the season for bare root trees is becoming more constricted. So over the last 3 years, we've been putting a lot of effort into developing a container unit for the big trees, which is now producing about 10,000 very large pots with those mature trees you saw in the earlier pictures. By doing that, again, that site is on a low area and there's more hard standing, so there is an increased risk of flooding, and we've taken the opportunity to drain all that into a new area and to build a wetland area. So the picture you see here is just after construction, but we're allowing that to become a naturally ebbing and flowing wetland area. Where we've done that on other areas of the nursery, they have become incredibly diverse habitats with a vast range of species. So that is part of our offset, that we always try to create habitats alongside the production units. And looking at development on the container nursery, this is going back about 20 years. And the area, the main area in the image you see is outdoor beds and tunnels and glass houses. But all of that was based on overhead sprinkler systems, just draining into the gravel soils and away. And when we looked at the next phase of development 20 years ago, we decided we needed to make a closed system. So in the top right of the image, you can see the start of construction of beds that have a V profile, and the water drains into the centre and then into the long canal in the top right, where we can recirculate the water in the big tanks. We treat and sterilise it with ozone and reuse that. Now, we would have loved to roll that out on a bigger area, but until we constructed the large reservoir, we couldn't seal too many surfaces and risk the flooding. So all these things have come in stages where we review and retrofit or install the latest technology to move that forward. But water management will remain one of our big areas of concentration as we change the growing substrates. and look at more precise ways of measuring and applying water, so that we can cope with the hotter, drier weather and still continue to move the production forward. Another area of interest, I mentioned the land area that we're occupying, so 400 acres at trees, 250 acres at the transplant nursery. There's got to be something we can do there. So depending on the crop cycle, you see the standard trees here. We're growing them on a 5-year rotation, which gives us a great opportunity to create wildlife rich habitats, grass lays under the trees. We can increase that with pollinator rich species, so that we've got a real stable environment, supporting wildlife and improving soil structure. And then at the end of 5 years, we can then go into 5 years of fallow, rest in the soil, putting in species that lock up nitrogen, build up organic matter, and feed the soil. And that works really well for our tree production. On the transplant nursery, where we're growing tiny seedlings, where we need very good control of other species, that's difficult. We need to almost keep a bare earth situation, which we used to do purely through herbicide use. We now do that through increase of cultivations and careful timing of the operations. So our manager there designed equipment to be able to keep the weed under control through mechanical means until the crop is established. But again, in a lot of ways, we're doing one of the worst things possible for land management with that tree production, because we are harvesting in winter and producing bare ground, which is then subject to erosion with runoff. So we've had to think very carefully about how we manage that. What we're doing there is, because we can't allow other species within the crop, we're doing green crops and going for bulk organic matter. So we're growing maize, which produces a lot of mass and a deep root system. And then rather than harvest it and sell it, we mow that and rotivate it into the ground again to build up the organic matter and build up the soil structure, which also aids the nutrition and the management of drainage and water movement. So that's just a few snapshots of the many projects we've got running. And then I think it's important to talk about marketing as well. So we have a fantastic story to tell on all the projects we're doing. And as technology, climate change kick in, and our customers are struggling with the same challenges of establishing plants, maintaining them, keeping them healthy, we have a lot of communication to do on how we can support and promote best practice. The photo there is our owner and chairman. Her grandfather donated a woodland to Wildlife Trust, and they were looking at pulling out of that to concentrate on other projects. So we've stepped in to sponsor that because it's a great asset in our local environment. So it's good to support in charities. We work with Woodland Trust, Wildlife Trust, and Forestry Commission on all these kinds of projects. But we also have stories to tell on the practical things. So propagating in peat-free, we're involved in projects there, promoting and workshops within the industry. And I think on the agrochemical side, reducing there, we're very involved in developing biological controls. And I think one of the exciting things is, as with the food industry and wonky vegetables, going from that situation where you're selling beautifully clean, perfect produce to educating to people that actually you're not just selling them a sterile plant that looks perfect, but you're selling them a mini ecosystem with beneficial insects and fungi inhabiting the results that will help the plants to establish. So that is also another way that we involve all the staff in the story that we have. And then just to sum up, we think about how do we measure what we're doing. Of course, we have the hard measures of fuel consumption, waste streams, water usage, all those hard measures of inputs and outputs. But I think one of the things that we find most rewarding and engages both with our staff and with many of our visitors and customers is seeing the results in practice on the nursery. So these images are all on the nursery. We have a buzzard there, ducks nesting within the container ground. Twice a year we do an audit of bird species, so how many birds we see in an hour, and year on year that's been growing with the number of birds of prey, the number of waterfowl, grassland species, and that is only possible because of the increase in habitats, the increase in insects and amphibians. And it's a great story, and the staff really engage with that. So obviously never too far from a garden of the robin, the bees, the butterflies. And then when we built the new reservoir, although it was sterile and plastic lined, very quickly we had geese, several species of ducks. The pontoon that the pump is suspended from became a nesting site for the black-headed gull. So very richly, and the old adage "build it and they'll come" is very true, and it's very rewarding to see that as we work through the other aspects of the projects. And just to sum up the key messages on what we're doing, we do put sustainability into everyone's job description. We think it's an underlying thing that supports everything we do as a business. And therefore, when we do our business reviews, we consider sustainability. We look at our materials, whether we can reduce, reuse, recycle, replace with more eco-friendly alternatives. I would love to do away with plastics in our industry. We're not there yet. Engage actively with all your stakeholders, both to promote and to gain ideas. You learn so much from up and downstream in your supply chains. And big projects can consume a lot of capital, which is great when the economy is doing well, and they can be big game changers like water networks, big reservoirs, new systems, solar panels. They all play a part, but I think the big part is the results achieved from lots of small changes. So when everyone's engaged, looking at their bit, how can we control this without a chemical? All these questions are part of everyone's thought process day to day when we do the annual review. So each year we see new projects coming in and people engaging with them. So that's probably a quick snapshot and a few things to take away.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was amazing. Thank you. There's lots of really positive comments in the chat as well. And I've also seen that there's a few questions, but I actually want to move over to Nemo's presentation, and then if we've got time at the end, we'll do any questions. I am going to share all of the slides along with any contact details. So if we don't get to pick up on anything, obviously you can make your own connections with the speakers and ask any questions. So. Okay. Nemo is doing her thing already. She's already got the screen up. Okay. Fantastic. Nemo, you all ready to make a start? Yeah, do you want to take yourself off mute?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Nemo Jadi, and I'm the co-founder of Green Action CIC. I set up the organization back in 2022, and that was just because I was traveling in Kenya at the time. And when I was there, they had a 5-year drought that kind of really wiped out a lot of animals, and a lot of the animal farmers who are kind of really affected because of the extreme heat. So then majority of women and children were kind of affected, and that's what kind of made me get involved. So then when I came back, I kept thinking, what can I do to make a difference to all these families that have been displaced, and as a result of the droughts. Obviously the climate is changing, there's a lot of extreme heat, and most of the animals out there really can't survive. So Kenya is one of the popular safari destinations, according to The Economist. In 10 years' time, if we don't do anything about climate change, a lot of these animals will be wiped out, and it did actually happen in the drought. So this is a picture here of a giraffe in a very, very dry land, and you can just see the impact. So what we decided to do is to kind of work with a local charity out there. This is one of the nurseries that we've sponsored. And what we do is we get them to kind of plant trees and move them and help the farmers to move away from animal farming into fruit trees farming. So obviously, planting trees is the best way to sequence the carbon that we have currently in the air. And if we move them or help these farmers move away to plant farming, then they can produce things like citrus, mango, papaya, all the tropical fruits that they can, one, feed their families with, and two, they can actually sell it to market. And at the same time, we have all these trees and forestry, and obviously the biodiversity that comes with that, and actually sequence the current CO2 that we have that's causing a lot of the problems. There is no net zero without carbon removal. You all see how hot it is currently. You've seen the fires across Europe. It's gone to Spain this morning. I think the rest of Europe, France, Italy are all on high alert. And the reason for that is the amount of CO2 we already have in the air. So part of our messaging obviously is, yes, we're here to reduce emissions, we're here to educate, and we do run workshops to educate people about that. But obviously with a meaningful climate change action, and the path to net zero is to help sequence what's already there. So we then kind of get businesses to know their emissions, to reduce, to remove, and at the same time rebalance. To limit or to reverse climate change, we need to reduce emissions by 80 to 90%, which in some businesses is almost impossible. And it's the same time, so then we need to deploy carbon removal technologies at a level of 10 billion tons annually by mid-century, which is a major kind of undertaking. So we kind of did a lot of research. We spoke to a lot of people in the ground to come up with the best solution. And one of the issues that we come across was this tree here. So this is a tree that was introduced to this region by a charity from South America. The intention was the right intention. So this tree is kind of an evergreen tree. It kind of survives hot drought seasons, and it's green throughout the year. But the problem with this is they implemented this with a community that are animal farmers. So then the tree is kind of poisonous to animals, and at the same time, it causes a lot of problems. Like it damages people because it's got all these small thorns here. And the other thing also is that it's very invasive. So because it can survive the tree compared to other pastures and other trees, it just took over the land. So a lot of these farmers then kind of keep moving away from the tree, but then it is really taking over. So we thought, okay, this is a problem that we can actually use. So what we've done is we've now gone into supporting the removal of the tree. So we cut them down, we dry them, and then we turn them into something called biochar. So biochar is like a charcoal. Because this tree is causing problems, here's the solution: turn it into biochar. They then can use the biochar to restore biodiversity. So this is a very easy way of capturing carbon. You can actually turn it into that, and then you put it into soil. And when you put it into the soil, it actually improves the the fertility of soil by 80%. So you don't need to use all these chemicals and all these fertilizers that cause other problems downstream to people in terms of water and all that. They can actually put it in the ground, and then this improves fertility. It holds water inside the soil and generally improve the fertility. So improve fertility and water retention capabilities of soils, and we're converting matenge tree into the biomass, into biochar. And then this process, it cooks up, basically creates that, and that's what we then put into the soil and it improves. So then once they do that, we then help them through the nurseries to plant fruit trees. Obviously, they also plant like natural trees that kind of grow there, and then we kind of restore the land. So artisan biochar uses traditional techniques of charcoal production into modern sustainable practices. By producing biochar, the local farmers and the community members can engage in carbon removal while enhancing soil health and boosting livelihoods. This method offers a flexible, low infrastructure process for sequencing carbon. So we don't need to invest in all these technologies. This is a very simple technology that, farmers that are not necessarily technological can actually do. And then it's an ideal solution for rural and agricultural areas. So some of the farmers that we're working with currently are really excited about this because they're going to get free fertilizer, and at the same time they'll kind of remove the batenga tree, but we help them do that. And at this, so 45 tons of a dry biomass produces approximately 13 tons of biochar, which is about that 1.3 kilo per square foot. So what we've done, this is one of the projects we're doing now. It's in a school, and the free land that they have, we kind of remove the batenga tree, turn it into biochar, and then we kind of help them create these elephant bats. So this is just to mimic some of the things that actually happen there. And then obviously the trees are then planted in this kind of way, whereby it produces food, fruit trees, and at the same time, the swells then kind of show and spread water into the ground. So this is filled, and then kind of, so obviously when you have water, instead of water running away, it's another way to conserve water for them. And then obviously, so the plan is to have them, one, move away from animal farming into fruit tree farming, which is sustainable. Two, then we have trees everywhere, and then that's gonna cool the environment. And then obviously, if we also deploy the water kind of systems, then they can also catch the water. So that is the projects that we do in Kenya. We train obviously farmers how to cut down the batenga tree. We train them how to produce the biochar and help them through that process. We also involve women. So the women, instead of just sitting around begging in the street, they can actually do this, and they can also water the trees. So then they can keep the trees kind of going. So in the UK, the challenge is normally low carbon literacy. So most people just see this as a big challenge, and people just don't want to get involved, and they just disengage. But obviously we do the carbon training to kind of improve literacy. We also kind of do some local restoration projects whereby we're working with the Western Forest. We work with inner city communities in Gloucestershire and in Bristol to get them to access our local forest around. So obviously a lot of people live just within, so in Gloucestershire, so for example, there's a lot of forest around, but very few people kind of access that. So we help them access and to just engage people and show people that, tree planting and even just planting one tree in your back garden can make a very, very big difference. And then, so for the biochar process, then we then turn that into credits. So we are registered with Carbon Standards International, where we're selling these credits. And so the idea is to work with businesses in the UK who want to offset their emissions. They can work with us. We kind of show them the communities that we're working with, and you can kind of get involved that way. So obviously our message as always is to reduce emission, but where people can't really reduce emission, then we really need to sequence the current CO2. And this is some of the ways that you can invest in projects that have high level of social value and social impact. So then the community-owned restoration, local people they design this and they implement it, and we co-produce with them. And then it's also a transparent way. So 70% of the income goes back that we get from the carbon credits. It goes back into these community projects. And then obviously we can then do two things. We can remove the carbon that we have now, but we can also help communities that have been devastated by the effects of climate change. Obviously, poor countries have been hit by the impact more than rich countries. So this is also another way to kind of implement climate justice. And then yeah, I think, yeah. So doing the smart thing is also the right thing. Why invest in carbon removal projects? So this is like an immediate action in line with what's needed for the climate. So you and your business working with us, you're getting in line with upcoming regulations and you comply with policies and standards. You're also managing risk, because obviously if you're a business that really doesn't care about the economy, doesn't care about the environment, most young people are very switched on about it now because it's their livelihoods and their life that's going to be impacted. So you might not hire people, you might not, a lot of people obviously are very aware about the environment. So if you're a leader or a business owner that doesn't really care about the environment, that might actually impact your business. And then you're setting up yourself as a leader, a climate leader, by taking action, boosting your brand and reputation and trust. So that's the end of my presentation. I will take any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Nima. You absolutely flew through that. Thank you so much. That was so much information, but thank you again. We're going to definitely share the slides so that everybody can read through it perhaps a little bit in their own time. There are some questions for Andy. If anyone's got any questions for Nemo, feel free to put those in the chat, but I'm just going to go back to some of the questions that we had during Andy's presentations. Is that okay, Andy? Do you want me to read some of them out?
Yes, please. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone wants to know how the audit's done for the birds within the hour. Do all of the staff take part? It's a really nice idea.
No, we have a couple of really dedicated ornithologists who take responsibility for that. Other people do it as well, but we go with those two who come onto the nursery either early in the morning or in the evening. And it's absolutely fantastic to see the list grow every year with new species, some of them quite rare. But we do the same with insects and other things. And people do it on different sites as well. So, there's a lot of buy-in. You see nest boxes being made at home and brought in for the owls we've got. It's a high engagement, but two people take responsibility for the counting.
Okay. Thank you. Another question around carbon reduction. So who should be claiming the carbon reduction from planting the trees? Why they'll claim it, then the customer claims it, then the ultimate client claims it? Is it triple counting?
Yeah, well, if it's being claimed, it would be, but I think it's important to understand the life cycle of the tree. In the early stages of production, the trees are probably not locking up an awful lot of carbon. So we hold our hands up and say we're contributing to carbon at that stage. The early rapid growth phase is probably the most productive, but I think we need to work together as supply chains to make sure we're doing the right thing at each stage. And our part for carbon reduction, I think, is really in the soil management, as Nemo was saying, building up organic matter, locking up carbon, but capturing nitrogen and all those beneficials. So you can't overclaim. All you can do is be a part of a process that we need to do collectively.
Okay. Last question for you, Andy. Do you believe that the humble plastic plant pot will be replaced, as this is a big issue in our industry for recycling waste removal?
I think it will, but we're not close to it yet. We're working with recycled plastics, recyclable pots, but appreciate what a challenge that is. We've looked at other things, miscanthus, which is a pressed grass, coir fibre. I think the difficult thing for retail is in the presentation, where the retail environment needs to be kept clean and uniform. And the other big challenge is if you're going for a biodegradable material, is how long it lasts. If you're growing a long-term crop, you don't want to pick up a plant on a nursery and it all fall to pieces. And if it's too long and it's a short-term crop, it doesn't break down when it's used. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on that, and it's something I'm keen to see move forward. And again, supply chain, I think it's working with your customers, understanding their needs and what will work for them. So not on the immediate horizon, I'm sorry to say.
That's okay. Thank you for the information, Andy. I think we're going to wrap it up there then, guys, if you don't mind. We've got a minute left and I'm sure everybody's got an 11 o'clock appointment booked. So there's lots of really nice messages in the chat, messages of thanks to all of the speakers. A big thank you from me for all of that really fascinating and insightful information and for giving up your time to present to us this morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I will send out the slides later on this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.